Hello and welcome to the Stress Mastery Podcast. I'm your host, Peggy Romero. I've been filling in this week for Bill and David, and we've been discussing the why. So on today's podcast, I'm so excited because I'm going to be interviewing Jason Nuttig. And he is an amazing guy. Not only is he a certified health coach, he co-owns a gym in Greenville, South Carolina called One Gym. And he is currently working with us and with Bill right now to become a stress mastery shift coach. So thank you for taking time out of your busy life, Jason. We really appreciate you being here. Nice to see you.
Hey, Peggy. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks. I know you're busy. So tell us a little bit more about like what you do and what you've done, because wow, you've got an impressive resume.
Well, it all started in the U.S. Air Force. So I was serving a tour in Iraq, and I was reading this Arnold Schwarzenegger encyclopedia, just trying to learn some new things about exercise. And I started having people, come up in the middle of the night and ask what I did that day in the gym in Iraq. And I just had this weird thought that it'd be cool to get paid to do that. And that's kind of what started it. And so from there, when I came back, I was stationed in Little Rock, Arkansas. I started my first training job at a gym in downtown Little Rock. And that was one of the top 10 gyms in the nation at that time, according to Men's Health. Cool. And then from there, I moved back to South Carolina and I started working and did a mentorship for about 2 years under a former Mr. USA. And then from there, I moved to this place called Performance QSA, where I did a bunch of different things, personal training, semi-private training. I ran a women's boot camp where we had these large groups of women working out together, and eventually became the VP of marketing and athlete development. So I did all the marketing and helped with all the internal stuff, like challenges and writing nutrition programs and emails and all that exciting stuff for everybody at that gym. We served about 350 clients there. And now I'm doing my own thing with a buddy of mine that I used to work with over at QSA.
Wow, that's awesome. So you have you co-own the One Gym in downtown Greenville. I actually, by chance, know somebody who lives in Greenville, which I think is pretty funny since you and I just virtually, I've never even really met you. Yeah, that's really neat. So thinking about your drive to just having this little spark of, oh, that'd be cool reading a magazine, to being able to get paid to do that. What do you think drives you? Like, what's your purpose?
Well, I know I'm a vitality purpose through the beliefs assessment and purpose exercise with stress mastery. Mm-hmm. So I'm driven by seeing other people, raise their energy, find motivation, get inspired. And it really all started back in high school when I started driving around listening to these Brian Tracy CDs. Yeah. And it was all about the psychology of everything, like selling and money and health. And it was just very interesting to me of how much our mind influenced our behaviors. I never really put that together until I had those CDs. So that was kind of my introduction into personal development. So that was maybe like 10th or 11th grade. And then from there, I've just been in love with like the growth process. So from an early age, I don't think I really knew what was going on, but I was aware that I had a hard time just getting along with people, staying positive. It just always seemed like everything was a struggle. And I learned, the more I grew myself, the easier things became. I had less conflict in relationships. And I actually used to always say that I had really bad luck. I would say I hated people. It was just so negative. I thought the world was against me. And through personal development and me growing myself, I realized that I was the problem. And then the more mature I became, especially in like my emotional intelligence and emotional maturity, I realized I was able to get more clients in my business because I was able to communicate with people more effectively. And then, that when I continue growing and, not taking things personally and all that good stuff, it kept compounding and I was maintaining clients longer. And then I noticed the skills that I was learning for myself, I was able to use those to help people that maybe they knew what to do, but they were having a hard time doing it. And so I guess I would say it's really been a blessing that I chose to become a personal trainer, because working with people, it's almost allowed me to just be involved in this kind of stuff 24/7, 7 days a week. And so I get a lot of growth by helping all these people grow.
I am so impressed that when you were so young that you started listening to CDs like that. That's so crazy. Like that right there is a blessing. Whatever turned you on to that or made you be led to that, because most kids are like men or boys chasing girls and going to football games or whatever, and girls are, giggling and talking about the boys and trying to get good grades or get through school. And you were already like just boom, 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 focused on yourself. So you had a better foundation going into your 20s than like most of us are just so immature at that point. So that's awesome. How old were you when you went in the Air Force?
I signed up, technically I was like 17, so 18 when I officially went in.
Yeah, so you were totally mature for your age. And then you went in and then started doing all the personal training stuff right away. That's awesome. So do you just, I guess, always feel like you just have another thing to do? You're just going to keep on moving and growing because of all this personal development. It seems like it would just be your focus. And I'm also Vitality Purpose. I mention it on the podcast a lot that people can go into the stress mastery community. And how important taking that assessment is, because if you can stay connected to your purpose, you can grow. And that's obviously working for you. So do you just always feel like you're driven to succeed and like, oh, what am I going to do next? And I don't just want to work at the gym. I want to own the gym, and I don't want to just help myself. I want to help other people. That's just part of who you are, I guess.
To a degree, I would say yes. But I would say working with Bill has really helped me grow and evolve in that area. So it used to be much more of like a survival thing. It's almost like I would have to force the growth, force change for myself, because I couldn't keep my head above water. And I was always striving for the next thing, but I never could seem to make it work. And I didn't realize I was really the problem. It was my attitude and, the way I communicated with people, and even trying to get clients, to follow through on things, not knowing how to communicate with them. What I would tend to do is try to rescue them. So it's like if we're both, the car is the goal and we're trying to move in the direction of their goal, instead of letting them drive the car and I give directions, I would try to jump in the driver's seat and take them there. And it just never works out. So it's like I would try to force the goals for them. And the always looking for the next thing, it was more of I was seeking validation through my achievements. And so each morning I would wake up and I would be back at square one, which is 0. And I would have to achieve more that day or I would still feel kind of worthless. And so what Bill has helped me do is it's like I've harnessed that drive to learn. And instead of it being something that I feel like I have to do, and it's like a survival thing, and like I'm not going to make it if I can't get to this next step, like I'm coming from a place of lack, he's helped me look at where I am and have kind of more of a lens of abundance to where, I'm growth focused because I want to be a better person. And just when I learn and I grow in that process, it fuels my passion and it motivates me. And I find that, I just get fired up. And when I seek it for my own growth and just development to be the best I could be instead of, forcing it, it's just a totally different experience.
Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying, because I learned that from Bill too. Always trying to, like you said, the word force, like force your agenda. I need to do this so I'll feel better. If I can hit this goal, then I'll feel better about myself. Well, you never ever get there because you're working through your ego mind and just trying to prove something to somebody. Like we talk a lot about mimetic desire and stuff. We have to do it for ourselves. So connection to our purpose, right? Connection to our heart and living through our heart for ourselves instead of somebody else is like amazing. It's a difference of day and night, right? Yeah, I hear you. So, how were you introduced through Stress Mastery? Was it from your partner, or I know you told me before, but I don't remember. Do you want to?
I'm not 100% sure, but I think I was working with Patrick Garner, who's one of Bill's business partners, and um, I think I was also working with another client, and we were having some trouble getting them to follow through on some stuff. They were trying to lose weight, and Patrick mentioned to me that he had this guy that he was working with who was making some amazing changes with him and his mindset, and it made his ability to do all the things much easier.
Mhm.
And so I ended up talking to the client about it, and told him this just wasn't working what I was trying, and asked if he would be open to working with this other guy, Bill. And my client highly recommended him, and he did, and he lost a bunch of weight, and his mindset, has really improved through that process. And me and Bill just kind of started talking from there. And then one weekend, Bill came up with David, and me, David, Patrick, and my business partner Alex sat down, and just kind of went from there.
Awesome. Yeah, so it's really changed your life a lot too, because now you're coaching with him, and you just told us all the growth that you've had because of it. And working with Bill and learning to coach the way he does is totally going to help you in your business too. So,
Absolutely.
so all of these techniques that you've been using obviously have created a shift in your life. So how has that growth impacted you?
I mean, it's affected all of the 5 life categories, definitely. But I guess some of the biggest things are peace of mind. I have a lot more peace of mind, sense of just overall lightness. I don't know a better way other than saying that. I used to have a level of heaviness that I kind of carried around, of just, thinking too much, over analyzing things. But then, especially in my relationships, being able to pause and not react, not take things as personally. I have so much better relationships with everyone I come in contact with. And it's weird how people respond to you differently. And all the time you think it's the other person until you're the one that makes a change, and you realize everyone you come in contact with is now different. Just shows me it was me. So
it's crazy. I noticed that too. Like, I just a little off topic, but personal growth too. I always think, Peggy, you need to smile more. I always have this look on my face like I mean business, which I do mean business, but it's this really lighthearted business. It's not like I don't know. I always look not like the person that I am. And so when I can be aware enough, like going to the grocery store, if I have a smile on my face, just even a little, crack of a smile, people smile at you when you're walking by. They're not even, true interactions with your people. But just with the world, it's like, wow, if you smile, the world really does smile back. So I think that's the same with how we are. Like, I always was ready to, react instead of respond, and just taking a breath and taking the second, you end up saying nicer things or saying nothing, and yeah, it totally affects your relationships. So you see in your close knitted relationships, do people say, wow, you're a lot calmer than you used to be, or why are you so happy all of a sudden?
Definitely stuff like that. Like, they say, I don't know how you do that. Or I had a lady tell me the other day, she's like, I feel like people are just attracted to you. And, they're just really reciprocating what you're putting out.
Yeah, that's awesome. Isn't that nice? I
Yeah.
mean, compliment. I feel like people are attracted to you. Why, thank you. I've been working on that for almost 2 years now. Yeah, I love it. Go ahead.
Another thing that I've noticed is I used to quit on myself too early. And I've always pictured myself as like this driven person. And I've been an achiever my whole life, always striving, but there's certain things that always seemed out of reach. And, going through the stress mastery process and naming the ego and being able to see all that talk going on in my head, I've noticed so many times where I have such a strong voice in my head telling me to stop doing something or to quit something. And having a more open mind, coming from a place of neutrality and just allowing things to be and not making a decision necessarily based on that voice in my head, and just letting things play out a little longer. I've had things carry on and have better outcomes, and I've achieved some goals that I wasn't able to achieve before. And it's just because I wasn't getting in my head and sabotaging myself.
Yeah, exactly. So we were talking about changing in your relationships in the positive way. Did you have any negative effects? Like, has it rattled people around you? Because usually people want us to stay the same. So even if we're changing for the positive, they'll still be sabotaging our growth. Did you have to experience any of that stuff from your business partners or family or anything?
Not really. Obviously, well, I have some relationships where obviously they weren't going to treat me right regardless of how much I grew. They had to meet me on their end, and they weren't willing to do so. And so it's those people, they don't see things the way they are. So it's that it maybe made that relationship worse because I was able to tell them some hard things. But if they don't see it, that's going to create some conflict.
Yeah.
And so you have a little bit of that, but I would say for the most part, everything's been better.
That's good. Yeah, I have that too. I have friends. I think mostly my friends who I went to church with for years and years, and then I was always the same. And then I tried to step up a little bit from that same exact mindset. And it's just growth, but they really want me to stay the same. So it's been kind of a struggle with that, but I'm glad that you didn't have all that. I'm really glad for you, because a lot of people, when we try to change and other people don't want us to, then like you said, you had a few people that you just had to lose because they can't see you the way they are and they don't want to hear what you're saying. So we can't do anything about it, but it usually does rattle people. But also taking the good and the bad, I believe that you would feel like this is a journey that has been well worth taking for you, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So let me ask you one more thing. I'm going to ask you what your plans for the future are, where you see yourself going, since we can imagine anything we want to and achieve it and attain it now. So if you had to say, what is your why? So you told us that before, your driving force was to prove it to yourself or prove it to somebody else or whatever. That's what kept you going. You had to wake up every day at square one, like Groundhog's Day is how I see it. Let me go do that again so I can prove myself worthy again. So now that you don't have that anymore, what's your why now? Because I know it's going to be a lot better than that.
Really, at the end of the day, my why is trying to increase my awareness and identification with our creator, and ultimately trying to let go of identifying with myself or my ego, because it seems like my growth in the spiritual direction has the most, it improves all the other categories really. And I feel the most benefit when I grow in that area.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the more I do identify with him, just the whole easier this whole process becomes. So it's almost like, and I can see this looking back at my upbringing, that I had a lot of independence as a young adult, and I got that from my upbringing with especially my mother. She's very independent, and that independence has held me back. And by me being able to depend on him and not myself, and depend on his will versus my will, basically everything else becomes easier. And so it's just each day of, how can I let go of all my wanting and try to let him be, my divine guide in my life.
That's awesome. Yeah, I always put in my journal every morning, God, help me to do what you want me to do and help me to say what you want me to say. because you have to keep that with you if you're going to be successful through the day. I don't always remember it, but I remember it in the morning. Okay, Jason Nutting. So tell me, or tell all of us, what are your plans for the future? Like, where do you see yourself going? If the sky's the limit, where are you going? What are you doing?
Well, if I'm gonna be honest with you, to give you lots of details, I wouldn't be able to do that. So I'm going through an exercise right now with Bill, with these 3 letters. I hear that y'all been talking about that a little bit too in your homework.
Yeah.
So it's the pure prosperity consciousness, and so that's something Bill's wanting me to define a little further. But I feel pretty clear with just the idea that I'm going to continue to grow in my 5 life categories and keep trying to grow in my spirituality. And I feel like, if I'm trying to maintain awareness of all these things, that I'm going to end up where I need to be. So right now it's just growing myself, serving the people that I have in my life.
That's really awesome, because what you were just saying a minute ago is that the more that you stay focused on God's will for you, well, I'm saying God, you said his and him, but I'll just put God in there. I'm not sure. I think that's what you meant, but okay. So the more that we focus on God, what God wants us to do, then that guides our path to what he has for us. And I always know from the bottom of my heart, God, your plans for me are so much better than any plan that I could have imagined. So let me just go there, Yeah, I think that's awesome, Jason. I really appreciate that. So do you want to tell anybody else anything? I just want to say, I want to go to Greenville so I can meet Ashley, my new friend who's working on my social media, but I'll come on there because I want to go check it out there. So do you have anything else that you want to say to our listeners?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. Well, I want to say that Jason, unfortunately, is going to, well, fortunately for him, unfortunately for me, Jason will be in New Mexico when we do the Rise Up and Shift event. So he won't be there, but he is in the Stress Mastery community all the time. If you want to talk with him or meet with him, he does a lot of work in nutrition and stuff, and he puts really great stuff in the community. So if you're in the Stress Mastery community, you can see him there. Do they have a different way of contacting you, Jason, that you want to share?
They could always find me on my website. It's just my first and last name, jasonnutting.com.
Okay. That's it for today's show. Our mission here is to create a shift in the planet, and you can join us on the mission that Jason and I are both on by simply like, share, and subscribe. And the links are right below the show notes. I hope to see you all at the Rise Up and Shift event. And until next time, stay inspired.